the slavery issue was something that wasn't going to go away. And the bloodletting that happened in this country almost 100 years after this Constitution was ratified, some 80 years later, is just beyond the pale when you actually look at the population, how many people who fought in the Civil War in 1861 to 1865 were either killed, wounded, in some way maimed. The percentage is enormous. But the issue didn't just crop up in 1861, like, oh, slavery issues here. Let's fight a war over it. No, it had been a hot button topic for a long time, at least a century, if not more. We talked about the last episode that Thomas Paine, in his book on Common Sense, he was one of the first abolitionists in the country, in the colonies in the 1770s, started a whole abolitionist society. So it was already percolating, and it was already starting to be an issue. The northern states wanted to bring an end to importing new slaves. And the South was like, no. Our economy in the South is built on plantations and agriculture, and we need the slaves, and we want to keep importing new slaves into this new country. So you can imagine over the course of months in Independence Hall in Philadelphia in 1787, the number of heated arguments that went on between Northern representatives and Southern representatives to the Constitutional Convention. But in the end, there was a compromise that was struck. And they agreed in the North to wait until 1808 before Congress would be able to ban the trade of enslaved people. So it basically gave the South an additional 20 years or so. And in fact, in March of 1807, President Thomas Jefferson signed a bill abolishing the trade of enslaved people. And that it took effect on January 1st of 1808, just like our founding fathers in this compromise agreed to. However, the South did get what they wanted in the fugitive slave law, which wasn't touched, meaning that if there was a slave that ran up to the North and was not freed by his or her master, the North or the persons in the North had to return the slave to the South. So not a perfect compromise again, but it was a start. It started the abolition movement to really kick it into another gear. Unfortunately, it didn't stop the bloodletting that would occur starting in 1861.
And Frederick Douglass actually was one of the people that actually spoke out about the whole Fugitive Slave Act, as well as the delaying of slavery until 1808. As he put it, it was essentially a pact with death. And again, it was something that, was not something that it's a stain on American history, but
No
it was
doubt.
something that needed to be, at that time, needed to be done in order to preserve the nation. Otherwise, then it would have, again, that you would have had a Southern, basically a Confederate states that could still be imposing that and could have still delayed the abolition of slavery completely for another century. So again, we're not trying to minimize it. We're not trying, but we want to recognize it also as a part of a necessity that needed to be done to preserve the nation.
Having the compromise made was a necessity, but there was progress made. That there was this abolition from the top down in the nation as of 1808. No more
Right.
slaves to come in, and that
Right.
was big. We think of it today like, oh yeah, big deal. That wasn't, at the end of the day, it wasn't a big. For at the time in 1787, that was a big deal. So
Right.
it was
Then
a step forward.